Malaysia sits at a crossroads where ancient traditions collide with modern reality, creating one of the world's most misunderstood destinations. Tourists arrive expecting tropical paradise and leave with stories of cultural shock, unexpected finds, and taboos they never saw coming. This Southeast Asian nation carries a reputation that puzzles travelers, simultaneously labeled as both deeply conservative and surprisingly liberal, sacred yet somehow sinful. What makes Malaysia so confusing for outsiders? The answer lies in invisible cultural red lines that visitors cross daily without realizing it. From public displays of affection that can land couples in jail to innocent social media posts that spark national outrage, Malaysia operates on unwritten rules that catch even seasoned travelers off guard. The country's complex identity stems from its incredible diversity: Malay, Chinese, Indian, and indigenous communities, each bringing their own customs, beliefs, and boundaries. But beneath this complexity lies a nation that is far more nuanced than its sinful reputation suggests, where understanding the rules transforms confusion into respect and fear into fascination. Fact number 15. No PDA allowed. Public affection law's romance takes on a different meaning in Malaysia, where public displays of affection walk a tightrope between cultural sensitivity and legal consequences. What seems innocent elsewhere, holding hands, kissing, or even close embracing, can trigger reactions ranging from disapproving stares to actual police intervention. The country's Islamic influence shapes these boundaries, particularly in conservative states where Sharia law governs personal conduct. Couples have faced fines exceeding 1,000 Malaysian ringgit for kissing in public parks, while hotels regularly refuse unmarried couples seeking to share rooms. The enforcement varies dramatically by location and circumstances. In cosmopolitan areas like Kuala Lumpur's Golden Triangle, tolerance runs higher, but venture into smaller towns or religious sites, and the rules tighten considerably. Even married couples find themselves navigating these social boundaries carefully. The complexity deepens when considering Malaysia's multi-ethnic population. Chinese and Indian communities may have different comfort levels with public affection, yet everyone operates within the broader framework of Malaysia's conservative social fabric. International tourists often mistake Malaysia's modern skyline and Western brand presence for Western social norms, leading to uncomfortable encounters with local customs. Understanding these boundaries is unable restriction. It is about recognizing that intimacy carries different cultural weight in Malaysian society. But these social rules only scratch the surface of Malaysia's cultural complexity, especially when night falls and the country reveals another side entirely. Fact number 14. Midnight street food that never sleeps when darkness blankets Malaysia's cities. A parallel universe awakens in the form of bustling night markets and 24-hour food courts that serve as the country's cultural heartbeat. These nocturnal gatherings represent Malaysia at its most authentic, where the rigid social rules of daylight hours melt away amid the sizzle of walks and the mingling of languages. Mammoth stalls, Indian Muslim eateries become social hubs where businessmen, taxi drivers, and students share tables regardless of background or belief. The food tells Malaysia's immigration story on every plate. Char kway teow reflects Chinese culinary heritage, while rendang speaks to Malay tradition, and roti canai showcases Indian influence. These flavors don't just coexist, they've evolved into distinctly Malaysian creations that exist nowhere else on Earth. Night markets like Jalan Alor in Kuala Lumpur transform ordinary streets into aromatic wonderlands where the scent of satay mingles with curry laksa and sendal. What makes these midnight gatherings remarkable isn't just the food, it is the temporary suspension of Malaysia's usual social boundaries. Here, Muslims and non-Muslims share spaces comfortably. Conversations flow between languages mid-sentence, and the country's diversity feels less like division and more like harmony. The stalls operate on trust and community, with vendors knowing regular customers' preferences and extending credit based on handshakes. These food courts represent Malaysia's soul more accurately than any government tourism campaign. Yet even in these relaxed spaces, certain boundaries remain firmly in place, particularly regarding what people choose to drink. Fact number 13. The alcohol dilemma, legal but taboo. Malaysia's relationship with alcohol reveals the country's internal contradictions in stark detail. Technically legal for non-Muslims, alcohol exists in a gray zone of social acceptance that varies dramatically across regions, communities, and circumstances. In Kuala Lumpur's upscale districts, wine bars and craft beer lounges operate openly, yet just hours away in conservative states like Kelantan, alcohol sales face severe restrictions or outright bans. The pricing tells its own story. Heavy taxation makes alcohol expensive, with a bottle of wine costing 3 times its Western price. This isn't accidental. The government uses economic pressure to discourage consumption while avoiding outright prohibition. Muslim-majority areas often restrict alcohol sales to specific zones or times, creating a patchwork of availability that confuses visitors. Some states require special licenses for alcohol sales, while others ban it entirely in certain districts. For Malaysia's non-Muslim population, particularly Chinese and Indian communities, alcohol plays traditional roles in celebrations and social gatherings. Wedding banquets feature elaborate toasts, while business dinners often include beer or whiskey. Yet these communities navigate carefully, understanding that public intoxication or excessive drinking can trigger broader social disapproval. The contradiction creates interesting scenarios. Luxury hotels serve alcohol freely, while local convenience stores may hide beer behind curtains or sell it from separate sections. International visitors often misread these signals, assuming that legal means socially acceptable everywhere. The reality requires more nuance, understanding that Malaysia's alcohol policies reflect its attempt to balance religious values with practical governance and economic interests. This delicate balance extends beyond drinking into sacred spaces where even more precise rules govern behavior. Fact number 12. Mosques, shoes, and silent rules. Malaysia's mosques open their doors to visitors of all faiths. Yet these sacred spaces operate according to precise etiquette that tourists frequently misunderstand or overlook entirely. The National Mosque in Kuala Lumpur welcomes thousands of international visitors daily, but entrance requires navigating a complex set of unwritten rules that go far beyond simply removing shoes. The footwear protocol alone confuses many visitors. Shoes must be removed before entering the mosque compound, not just the prayer hall. Special shoe racks provide storage, but the process requires patience during busy periods when hundreds of pairs accumulate. Dress codes demand full coverage long pants and sleeves for everyone, with loose-fitting clothing preferred over tight garments. Women must cover their hair with scarves provided at the entrance, while both genders should avoid bright colors or flashy designs that might distract from the sacred atmosphere. Photography rules create another layer of complexity. While mosque architecture photography is generally permitted, photographing people in prayer is strictly forbidden. Flash photography disturbs worshippers, and certain areas remain completely off limits to cameras. During prayer times, non-Muslim visitors must remain in designated areas and maintain complete silence. Even whispering can cause offense. The most challenging aspect for visitors involves understanding when to enter and when to wait. 5 daily prayer times transform mosques from tourist sites into active places of worship, requiring non-Muslims to pause their visits or observe from respectful distances. These protocols aren't meant to exclude. They redesign to preserve the sanctity of religious practice while welcoming cultural exchange. The rules reflect Malaysia's broader approach to balancing tradition with tourism, creating frameworks that honor both. This same tension between old and new plays out dramatically in Malaysia's retail landscape. Fact number 11. Luxury malls versus village markets. Malaysia's retail landscape presents one of the world's most dramatic contrasts, where air-conditioned megamalls selling international luxury brands exist within walking distance of centuries-old wet markets that operate much as they did generations ago. This juxtaposition isn't accidental. It reflects Malaysia's rapid modernization and its determination to preserve traditional commerce simultaneously. Kuala Lumpur's Pavilion and Surya KLCC rival any shopping destination globally, featuring brands like Hermes, Louis Vuitton, and Tiffany & Co., alongside massive food courts serving international cuisine. These malls function as climate-controlled cities where middle-class Malaysians and tourists can spend entire days shopping, dining, and socializing. The contrast becomes stark when stepping outside these glass towers into nearby areas like Chinatown or Little India, where street vendors sell everything from fresh produce to handmade crafts using methods unchanged for decades. The wet markets tell Malaysia's authentic story. Vendors wait before dawn to arrange displays of exotic fruits, fresh seafood, and aromatic spices. Bargaining remains expected. Relationships matter more than transactions, and cash rules everything. These markets serve as community centers where locals catch up on gossip, elderly residents conduct their daily social interactions, and traditional knowledge passes between generations. What's fascinating is how both systems thrive simultaneously. Wealthy Malaysians might shop for designer clothes in air-conditioned malls during the day, then visit wet markets in the evening for fresh ingredients and authentic street food. The markets offer prices and variety that supermarkets can't match, while malls provide comfort and selection that traditional commerce can't deliver. This dual system reflects Malaysia's broader cultural philosophy, embracing progress while maintaining roots. Yet beneath this surface-level coexistence, Malaysia harbors aspects of urban life that operate entirely in shadows. Fact number 10. Forbidden Nights, Kuala Lumpur's red light secrets. Behind Malaysia's conservative facade lies an underground economy that thrives in the shadows of major cities, particularly in Kuala Lumpur's lesser-known districts. This hidden nightlife operates according to its own rules, existing in the gray areas between official policy and practical reality. The contrast with Malaysia's public image creates cognitive dissonance for visitors who expect uniformly conservative social norms throughout the country. Certain areas of the capital transform after midnight into zones where different rules apply. Massage parlors with ambiguous services line specific streets, while karaoke lounges offer entertainment that extends beyond singing. These establishments operate with varying degrees of official tolerance, creating a complex ecosystem that most tourists never encounter but local residents acknowledge exists. The underground economy involves more than adult entertainment. Illegal gambling dens, unlicensed bars serving after-hours alcohol, and entertainment venues that cater to desires officially discouraged by conservative policies all find ways to operate. Law enforcement approaches these activities with inconsistent vigor, sometimes conducting raids while other times maintaining strategic blindness. What makes this shadow economy particularly interesting is how it coexists with Malaysia's religious and cultural conservatism. The same neighborhoods might house both mosques and massage parlors, creating a geographical tension that reflects Malaysia's internal contradictions. Many Malaysians acknowledge this duality while preferring not to discuss it openly, understanding that certain aspects of urban life require practical compromises with ideological purity. This underground reality doesn't define Malaysia, but it does complicate simple narratives about the country's character. The shadow economy operates as a pressure valve, allowing urban society to function while maintaining public adherence to conservative values. These complexities extend even to Malaysia's most famous culinary export. Fact number 9. Durian, the world's most sinful fruit. No fruit polarizes opinion quite like durian, Malaysia's crowned king of fruits that manages to be both beloved and banned simultaneously. This spiky, football-sized fruit produces an aroma so potent that hotels, trains, and airlines prohibit it entirely. Yet Malaysians consider durian season a national celebration worthy of travel and significant expense. The smell defies easy description. Imagine a mixture of rotting onions, turpentine, and raw sewage, yet somehow appealing to those who've acquired the taste. First-time visitors often recoil in horror, covering their noses and fleeing durian stalls, while locals line up willing to pay premium prices for the best specimens. A single high-quality durian can cost more than a day's wages, making it a luxury item despite growing wild in Malaysian forests. Durian etiquette follows strict protocols. Vendors assess ripeness by sound, smell, and subtle visual cues that novices can't detect. The fruit must be consumed immediately after opening, as it spoils rapidly in tropical heat. Traditional wisdom warns against mixing durian with alcohol, though scientific evidence for this prohibition remains unclear. Some believe the combination can be dangerous, while others dismiss it as folklore. The cultural significance extends beyond mere consumption. Durian season brings families together, with multi-generational groups traveling to orchards for fresh food experiences impossible to replicate elsewhere. The fruit appears in traditional medicine, local desserts, and even modern innovations like durian ice cream and coffee. International chains have attempted durian-flavored products with mixed results, as the fruit's complexity doesn't translate well to processed foods. Malaysia's relationship with durian reflects its broader cultural identity, something that seems foreign and off-putting to outsiders yet represents deep tradition and pride for locals. The fruit's contradictory nature mirrors Malaysia itself, simultaneously approachable and challenging, traditional yet modern, loved and misunderstood. This same complexity applies to Malaysia's approach to dress and public appearance. Fact number 8. Dress codes tourists ignore Malaysia. Dress codes operate as invisible social contracts that locals understand intuitively but leave foreign visitors guessing at boundaries they can see. The rules shift dramatically depending on location, occasion, and cultural context, creating a complex navigation system that even well-intentioned tourists frequently misread. Religious sites maintain the strictest requirements. Mosques demand full coverage regardless of weather, with loose-fitting clothes preferred over form-fitting alternatives. Buddhist and Hindu temples follow similar principles, though enforcement varies by individual sites. Some temples provide covering cloths for underdressed visitors, while others refuse entry entirely. The challenge intensifies in Malaysia's tropical climate, where covering up conflicts with staying cool. Government buildings, courts, and official institutions enforce formal dress codes that many tourists encounter unexpectedly. Tank tops, shorts, sandals, and casual wear can result in denied entry, forcing visitors to find alternative clothing or abandon their plans. Shopping malls generally allow casual dress, but upscale establishments may maintain unofficial standards that create uncomfortable situations for underdressed patrons. The complexity multiplies in Malaysia's diverse neighborhoods. Areas with strong Islamic identity expect more conservative dress, while Chinese or Indian districts may be more relaxed. Beach resorts along the coast allow bikinis and casual wear, but the same attire becomes inappropriate just kilometers inland. Even within cities, dress expectations can shift block by block. What confuses visitors most is the inconsistent enforcement. One day shorts might be acceptable at a particular venue, while the next day the same clothing draws disapproval. Weather, local events, religious holidays, and even the personal attitudes of individual staff members can influence how strictly dress codes are applied. Understanding these nuances requires recognizing that clothing in Malaysia communicates respect, cultural awareness, and social sensitivity rather than just personal comfort. These dress considerations become even more critical during Malaysia's most significant cultural celebrations. Fact number 7. Festivals of Fire and Faith Malaysia. As festival calendar showcases the country's incredible diversity through celebrations that range from deeply spiritual to spectacularly dramatic, yet each carries protocols that visitors must navigate carefully to avoid causing offense. These events offer outsiders unprecedented access to Malaysian culture, but participation requires understanding boundaries between observation and intrusion. Thaipusam represents Malaysia's most visually striking religious festival, where devotees pierce their bodies with hooks and skewers while carrying elaborate kavadi structures. The procession from Kuala Lumpur's Sri Mahamariamman Temple to Beta Caves attracts thousands of photographers, but the event remains deeply sacred to participants. Observers must maintain respectful distances, avoid flash photography during actual piercing moments, and understand that they're witnessing genuine religious devotion rather than performance art. Ramadan transforms Malaysia's social rhythm entirely, with non-Muslim visitors needing to adjust expectations accordingly. Eating, drinking, or smoking in public during daylight hours shows disrespect to fasting Muslims, even though these actions aren't legally prohibited for non-Muslims. Restaurant hours shift, business practices change, and the evening iftar breaking a fast creates community celebrations that welcome respectful participation from people of all backgrounds. Chinese New Year brings dragon dances, fireworks, and open house traditions where families welcome visitors regardless of ethnicity or religion. Yet gift-giving follows specific protocols. Red envelopes must contain new bills in even amounts. Certain flowers carry unlucky connotations, and timing matters for visits. Deepavali offers similar opportunities for cultural exchange, with Hindu families sharing sweets and lighting oil lamps, but participation requires understanding religious significance behind seemingly simple actions. Each festival operates according to its own calendar, dress requirements, behavioral expectations, and participation rules. What appears welcoming and open to tourists actually follows precise cultural scripts that locals learn from childhood. The key to respectful participation lies in recognizing these celebrations as living religious and cultural practices rather than tourist attractions. However, these traditional boundaries extend into the digital age, where new forms of cultural insensitivity have emerged. Fact number 6. Crossing the cultural red lines online. Malaysia's digital landscape operates under cultural and legal constraints that catch international visitors completely off guard, where innocent social media posts can escalate into serious legal consequences. The country's diverse religious and ethnic composition creates multiple sets of sensitivities that overlap and interact in ways that make online navigation particularly treacherous for outsiders. Religious content poses the greatest risk. Posting images of food during Ramadan, making jokes about Islamic practices, or sharing content that could be interpreted as insulting to any religion can trigger immediate backlash and potential legal action. Malaysia's sedition laws extend to digital platforms, meaning that posts considered inflammatory toward race or religion can result in arrest and prosecution. Several tourists have faced legal consequences for social media content they considered harmless. Political commentary represents another minefield. Malaysia's complex racial dynamics mean that topics considered normal political discourse elsewhere can be interpreted as seditious locally. Even sharing news articles or commenting on Malaysian political events can trigger unwanted attention from authorities. The country's lese majesté laws also protect the monarchy from criticism, extending to social media platforms where foreign visitors might not realize they're commenting on sensitive topics. Cultural appropriation concerns have intensified in Malaysia's social media environment. Tourists posting photos wearing traditional clothing, participating in religious ceremonies, or making light of cultural practices often face severe online criticism. The backlash can be swift and intense, with posts going viral for negative reasons and attracting thousands of angry comments. Malaysian social media users actively monitor and call out what they perceive as disrespectful behavior by visitors. The enforcement mechanisms are increasingly sophisticated. Government agencies monitor social media platforms. Malaysian users report offensive content actively, and the legal system has adapted to address online violations. What seems like innocent sharing of travel experiences can escalate into serious legal and social consequences that follow visitors long after they leave the country. These digital boundaries reflect Malaysia's broader struggle to balance openness with cultural protection, extending even to its pristine beaches and resort areas. Fact number 5. The paradise beaches with hidden taboos. Malaysia's tropical coastline presents a paradise that comes with invisible cultural boundaries, where pristine beaches and azure waters coexist with conservative social expectations that frequently clash with typical beach behavior. The contrast creates ongoing tension between Malaysia's tourism ambitions and its cultural values, leaving visitors uncertain about acceptable conduct in what appears to be relaxed resort environments. Langkawi and Penang's beach resorts allow bikinis and typical beach attire within resort boundaries. But step outside those zones and expectations shift dramatically. Local beaches frequented by Malaysian families maintain much more conservative standards, where even modest swimwear can attract unwanted attention or disapproval. The invisible lines between tourist zones and local areas aren't marked clearly, leading to uncomfortable encounters when visitors inadvertently cross cultural boundaries. The East Coast beaches present even more complex dynamics. States like Kelantan and Terengganu operate under stronger Islamic influence, where modest dress expectations extend to beach areas. Some beaches have designated family sections where mixed-gender swimming is discouraged, while others maintain unofficial segregation during peak local usage times. International visitors often find themselves navigating these unwritten rules without clear guidance. Alcohol consumption on beaches creates additional complications. While resort areas typically serve alcohol freely, public beaches often have restrictions or complete prohibitions. Local authorities may ignore small-scale consumption in tourist areas while strictly enforcing rules when local communities are present. The inconsistent application of these rules creates confusion for visitors who can't predict when their behavior might cause problems. Photographing local beachgoers requires particular sensitivity. Many Malaysian families prefer not to appear in tourist photos, especially women in traditional dress or religious attire. Beach photography that seems innocent to visitors can violate privacy expectations and cultural norms around image sharing. The challenge intensifies during religious holidays or local festivals when beaches attract Malaysian families with heightened sensitivity to foreign behavior. These beach dynamics reflect broader questions about how traditional values adapt to modern tourism, similar to the underground economies that operate in Malaysia's urban areas. Fact number 4. Street gambling and shadow economies. Malaysia's relationship with gambling reveals another layer of cultural complexity, where legal prohibitions coexist with thriving underground economies that operate according to their own rules and social structures. This shadow world exists in plain sight for those who know where to look, creating a parallel society that most tourists never encounter, but many locals understand implicitly. Traditional gambling like mahjong sessions in coffee shops or private homes continues despite official restrictions. These games serve social functions beyond mere betting. They're community gatherings where business relationships form, family bonds strengthen, and cultural traditions pass between generations. The stakes often matter less than the social interaction, with games continuing for hours while participants catch up on neighborhood news and maintain connections. Illegal lottery systems operate with surprising sophistication, using networks that span entire cities and sometimes cross state boundaries. Number runners collect bets from regular customers. Results are distributed through word-of-mouth networks, and payouts happen with remarkable reliability despite the absence of legal enforcement. These systems build on trust relationships that can span decades, creating underground economies worth millions of ringgit annually. Sports betting thrives particularly around international football matches, with informal bookmakers operating through coffee shops, barber shops, and other seemingly innocent businesses. The 2022 World Cup saw massive underground betting activity, with Malaysian authorities acknowledging they couldn't effectively control the practice despite regular raids and arrests. The betting networks adapt quickly to law enforcement pressure, moving locations and changing communication methods to stay ahead of authorities. What makes these shadow economies particularly interesting is their integration with legitimate business. The same coffee shop might serve excellent food during the day while hosting mahjong games at night. Barber shops provide haircuts alongside betting services, and neighborhood sundry shops might operate as number collection points. This integration makes enforcement difficult and creates gray areas where legal and illegal activities blend seamlessly. The gambling shadow economy reflects Malaysia's broader cultural tensions between official policy and practical reality, showing how communities create their own solutions when legal frameworks don't match social needs or cultural traditions. These informal networks demonstrate remarkable resilience and adaptability, operating successfully despite constant legal pressure. Similar tensions appear in Malaysia's food industry, where religious requirements create complex navigation systems for both businesses and consumers. Fact number 3. The halal divide in everyday life. Malaysia's halal certification system extends far beyond simple food restrictions, creating a comprehensive framework that shapes daily life in ways that surprise international visitors who assume halal only affects obviously religious contexts. This system influences everything from cosmetics to cleaning products, pharmaceutical choices to financial services, creating parallel markets and consumer pathways that reflect Malaysia's Islamic values. The food industry operates under the world's most sophisticated halal certification system, where international chains like McDonald's reformulate entire product lines to meet Malaysian requirements. The famous McDonald's fries use different oil and preparation methods. KFC sources chicken from specific certified suppliers, and even seemingly innocuous items like vanilla ice cream require certification due to potential alcohol content in flavoring. These adaptations create uniquely Malaysian versions of global brands that taste subtly different from their international counterparts. Supermarkets navigate halal requirements through careful product placement and sourcing decisions. Non-halal sections are clearly marked and often physically separated from halal areas, creating distinct shopping experiences within the same store. International products require individual certification, leading to situations where identical items from different manufacturers have different halal status. The complexity forces consumers to become expert label readers and certification checkers. The pharmaceutical industry faces particularly complex challenges, as many medications contain ingredients derived from non-halal sources, like pork-based gelatin capsules or alcohol-based solvents. Malaysian authorities work with pharmaceutical companies to develop halal alternatives or provide religious exemptions for necessary medications. But the process creates ongoing tension between religious requirements and medical needs. Financial services have evolved their own halal alternatives through Islamic banking principles that prohibit interest-based transactions. Conventional banks operate alongside Islamic banks, offering parallel services that achieve similar financial goals through different mechanisms. Home loans, investment products, and business financing all have halal alternatives that follow Sharia-compliant structures, creating dual banking systems within the same economy. These halal considerations extend into unexpected areas like cleaning products, cosmetics, and personal care items, where certification ensures products don't contain prohibited substances or weren't tested on animals in prohibited ways. The result is a marketplace where halal and non-halal versions of similar products coexist, serving different consumer communities with distinct requirements. This systematic approach to religious compliance reflects Malaysia's commitment to accommodating its diverse population while maintaining Islamic principles, yet the application varies significantly across the country's different regions. Fact number 2. Malaysia's split personality. East versus West. Malaysia's geography creates two distinct countries sharing one name, where Peninsular Malaysia and Malaysian Borneo operate according to different cultural rules, legal systems, and social expectations that can shock visitors who assume national consistency. This division runs deeper than mere regional differences. It represents fundamentally different approaches to diversity, tradition, and social organization. Peninsular Malaysia, centered around Kuala Lumpur, operates under stronger Islamic influence and more conservative social norms. Here, dress codes matter more, public displays of affection face stricter scrutiny, and alcohol availability varies significantly by state. The peninsula's mainly Muslim majority creates cultural expectations that shape everything from business hours during Ramadan to public event scheduling around prayer times. Across the South China Sea to Malaysian Borneo, encompassing Sabah and Sarawak, and the cultural landscape shifts dramatically. Indigenous communities like the Dayak, Kadazan, and Iban maintain stronger traditional influences. Christianity and animism play larger roles, and social attitudes tend toward greater liberalism. Alcohol flows more freely, dress codes relax considerably, and traditional practices that might seem foreign or inappropriate on the peninsula remain integrated into daily life. The legal differences are substantial. Sarawak maintains its own immigration controls, requiring Peninsular Malaysians to show passports for entry. Local customary laws govern land ownership and traditional practices in ways that don't apply on the peninsula. Even Malaysian citizens can feel like foreigners when crossing between these regions, as social expectations and cultural norms shift significantly. Economic development patterns reflect these cultural differences. The peninsula concentrates Malaysia's modern industrial and technological development, with cities like Kuala Lumpur and Johor Bahru serving as regional hubs for international business. Borneo's economy relies more heavily on natural resources, tourism, and traditional industries, creating different employment patterns and lifestyle expectations. Religious composition tells the story most clearly. While peninsular Malaysia is approximately 60% Muslim, Sarawak's population is roughly 30% Muslim, 25% Christian, and includes significant Buddhist and traditional religion practitioners. This diversity creates more relaxed interfaith relationships and greater religious tolerance in daily interactions. The cultural divide affects tourism significantly. Visitors who plan Malaysia trips, assuming uniform experiences across the country, often find themselves unprepared for the dramatic shifts in social expectations, available activities, and cultural norms when moving between regions. Understanding Malaysia requires recognizing it as multiple cultural zones rather than a single homogeneous destination. These regional differences ultimately contribute to the fundamental question of Malaysia's identity and reputation. Fact number 1. The sin and beauty paradox. Malaysia's reputation as a sinful destination stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of how complex societies balance tradition with progress, religious values with practical governance, and cultural preservation with economic development. The sin label reflects outsiders' confusion rather than Malaysian reality, revealing more about observer expectations than actual Malaysian character. The paradox begins with Malaysia's successful management of incredible diversity. 68% of the population is mainly Muslim, while significant Chinese, Indian, and indigenous communities maintain distinct cultural identities within the same national framework. Rather than creating conflict, this diversity has produced a society that practices flexibility, accommodation, and practical compromise in ways that can appear contradictory to outsiders expecting simple categories. What visitors interpret as sinful behavior often represents sophisticated cultural negotiation. The Islamic principles that guide Malaysian society coexist with practical recognition that different communities have different needs and traditions. Rather than imposing uniform standards, Malaysia has developed systems that allow multiple approaches to social questions while maintaining overall harmony and stability. The economic success story supports this complexity. Malaysia has transformed from a colonial economy into a modern industrial and technological hub while preserving cultural traditions and religious values. This transformation required flexible approaches that balance competing interests rather than rigid adherence to any single ideology. The result is a society that seems contradictory to outsiders, but makes perfect sense to Malaysians who navigate these systems daily. Tourism benefits from this complexity when visitors approach Malaysia with curiosity rather than judgment. The country offers experiences unavailable elsewhere precisely because of its unique cultural combinations. Street food that blends Chinese techniques with Indian spices and Malay ingredients. Architecture that combines Islamic motifs with colonial influences and modern design. And social systems that allow multiple religious and cultural communities to thrive simultaneously. The sinful reputation actually highlights Malaysia's achievement in creating a society where different approaches to life coexist successfully. Rather than representing moral failure, Malaysia's complexity demonstrates sophisticated solutions to questions that many other diverse societies struggle to address. Understanding Malaysia requires moving beyond simple categories toward appreciation for nuanced cultural navigation. Malaysia's supposed sinfulness dissolves when viewed through the lens of cultural complexity rather than moral judgment. The country's reputation stems from visitors' misunderstanding of sophisticated social systems that balance competing values and diverse community needs within a Single national framework. Rather than representing contradiction or moral confusion, Malaysia demonstrates how traditional societies can adapt to modern realities while preserving core cultural identities. The practical travel implications are straightforward but crucial. Dress conservatively near religious sites and in rural areas, but beach attire is acceptable in designated resort zones. Research local customs before major festivals or religious holidays. When social expectations intensify and business operations change significantly, avoid public displays of affection, particularly in smaller towns or conservative states, while understanding that enforcement varies by location and context. Food represents Malaysia's greatest cultural achievement and safest cultural exploration ground. Street food courts welcome everyone regardless of background. Halal and non-halal options coexist clearly marked, and sharing meals breaks down cultural barriers more effectively than any diplomatic initiative. The night markets offer authentic Malaysian experiences with minimal cultural navigation required, making them ideal starting points for understanding local social dynamics. Budget travelers will find Malaysia exceptionally affordable compared to Western destinations. Street food costs under $2 per meal. Public transportation is efficient and inexpensive, and accommodation ranges from budget hostels to luxury resorts at prices significantly below comparable destinations. The country's infrastructure supports independent travel while offering enough structure to prevent serious cultural missteps. The key to respectful Malaysian travel lies in approaching the country as a student rather than a judge. Malaysia's cultural complexity reflects successful adaptation to challenging circumstances rather than moral failure or confusion. The invisible rules that govern Malaysian society exist to protect community harmony and individual dignity within a diverse population that could easily fragment without careful social management. Malaysia rewards visitors who invest time in understanding rather than quick judgment. The country offers experiences, flavors, and cultural insights unavailable anywhere else precisely because of its unique historical evolution and contemporary social solutions. Rather than avoiding Malaysia due to its sinful reputation, travelers should embrace the opportunity to witness how diverse societies can thrive when built on mutual respect, practical compromise, and cultural flexibility. The real sin would be missing the chance to experience one of Southeast Asia's most fascinating and misunderstood destinations.